So a lot of people ask me, why didn't you build the whole ship? They'll give me a little bit of grief because I didn't build the whole ship, and they say I took the easy way out. But I say we wouldn't be discussing Titanic unless there was one event that happened, and that was Titanic is known to sink, and I think it's only fitting that that's the way it's displayed. I'm Jason.
And I'm Kim. I'll answer this part of it. There is a Titanic in our yard because we live in a Titanic survivor's home.
I grew up in Proctor, graduated from Proctor. My mom graduated from Proctor. I never knew there was a Titanic survivor in Proctor until we purchased this house. I mean, to think that was almost 30 years ago that I graduated from school, and I never knew for 40-some years that there was a Titanic survivor in Proctor. So.
Yeah, so she was moving here to actually meet up with her sister. Her sister lived in Minnesota.
Everybody thought this is going to be the fastest ship, best ship, unsinkable, and on its maiden voyage, it went down. You know, they were so proud of this thing, and man thought he could outsmart nature. And I believe Titanic would have sailed off into history unknown or pretty much forgotten about if it hadn't been for the tragedy. And I think that's what draws a lot of people to it.
Yep, it was the last collapsible lifeboat sea that she was on. Just amazing that she was on there, so.
The idea, it came to me before we actually lived in this house, and Jaxson, our son, had an obsession with Titanic.
I guess we first got introduced to it in elementary school, and I just latched on to it.
So our son has Asperger's, which people with Asperger's tend to find a subject and they learn as much as possible about that subject.
So Jaxson was 3 or 4, I really think, when he started liking the idea of tragic things that happened.
His first big thing was Mount Vesuvius. He held on to that for a while, and then it was Titanic everything.
He knew how much lettuce was on board, how much beer was on board, just obscure facts a person with autism or Asperger's latches onto.
To have a kid with special needs and to see that child find such an interest in something and actually just really bring his spirit to life, it really touched me, and it gave me an interest in Titanic. Just simply because, hey, my son is in love with this thing and I want to learn about it too.
He would talk about that all the time before we even moved in to this house in 2013.
And we were here for maybe 6 months, and Kim was out talking to our neighbor, and she found out through her that our house was originally owned by a Titanic survivor.
She just casually mentioned that the person that lived in our house originally was on Titanic. My jaw probably dropped, I'm certain of it.
She come running in the house all excited and telling me, you won't believe what I just heard from Marge. And she told me, and I didn't believe her. So I went and I found the deed paperwork for when we purchased our house. Sure enough, here it is. And we just kind of all looked at each other in disbelief. Like, Titanic has been such a part of our life for years. How do we end up in this house? And it was like meant to be. That was my inspiration from then, and I just went with it. This is my garage slash shop slash Titanic shipyard.
I don't know really anything about the making of it other than he was in the garage a whole lot.
I'd say between 500 and 1,000.
Yeah, hours and hours at a time.
Hours.
Yeah.
First starting out, I knew I needed some type of frame to put all the metal on. I wanted to try to stay true to a ship being built and using individual pieces of metal riveted together versus covering it with one solid sheet of metal. So it's actually made out of their appliance boxes, I guess is the best I can describe them. I think they're like a 14 by 18 piece of metal. And just started cutting them down. That's it. I got plenty to build more. There were lots of times during that build that I had to look at what I had in my garage to use and come up with a purpose for it. This is repurposed shelving, wire shelves that I cut down to make the rail. Your little cranes here are just pieces of conduit. This is just all thread I had laying around to make the lifts for the boat. Your deck is all lath. The stacks are all the appliance boxes. I sell HVAC for a distributor, but I would love to be a full-time artist, to be honest with you. It's just financially not feasible. You always hear the starving artist, and I would be exactly that. But to be able to use the creative side of my brain is something that I love. I love to be able to do it.
It's important, I think, to have a passion and to have that passion for something that your child loves too. He's not just like that with Titanic, of course, but hockey for our other son or whatever it may be.
I think it actually is great that he did something like this, not necessarily because of me, but more as a tribute.
He was the driving factor of me starting it, but then the way everything played out over that time and us landing in this house, it really became kind of Anna's story as well. You know, like I said, nobody that I knew she lived in Proctor, and I knew putting this in the yard, people were gonna know.
Postcards is made possible by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota. Additional support provided by Margaret A. Cargill Philanthropies, Mark and Margaret Yakel-Julien on behalf of Shalom Hill Farms, a retreat and conference center in a prairie setting near Windham, Minnesota. On the web at shalomhillfarm.org. Alexandria, Minnesota, a year-round destination with hundreds of lakes, trails, and attractions for memorable vacations and events. More information at explorealex.com. The Lake Region Arts Council's Arts Calendar, an arts and cultural heritage funded digital calendar showcasing upcoming art events and opportunities for artists in West Central Minnesota. On the web at lrac4calendar.org. Playing today's new music plus your favorite hits. 96.7 Cram. Online at 967cram.com.